Red sky at morning, blue skies, Jodi Davis. Fade in, exterior, San Francisco Harbor night. Super, San Francisco, 1890. Starlight glimmers on water and abandoned gold rush ships. Not the good part of the docks, not even good part adjacent. The passenger steamer pier is empty. It's accessible by board breezeways through the mudflats. Exterior, San Francisco Harbor dock, night. Wooden structures dot the mud plains, temporary storage for cargo making its way from ships to shore. One beautiful, well-kept steamship, picked out in silver letter on her bow, SS Blue Sky. She's fastened to a permanent dock with only space for her. Light in several portholes. On deck are several strings of rare electric light. Colourful, bizarre plants in brightly coloured pots across the deck and at the base of the ramp that leads to the deck. A sign in stern font hangs from the railing. Perry Detective Agency. A muddy ramp leads to muddy boards that traipse to shore. Muddy black boots walk up the ramp. A red and black skirt, a dark crimson fitted long jacket, both modified for a 6-shooter holstered low at each hip. Ang, 29, more dangerous than beautiful, black hair trails down her back beneath a well-worn cavalry-style cowboy hat. Exterior SS Blue Sky deck night. Ang stops, listens, flexing her hand carefully. Her knuckles are busted and bloody. She tosses her hat next to the black, flat, brimmed hat on a wide lounge chair. She walks across, takes 3 stairs to the far side of the smokestack, the view of the city blocked. Leaning against the smokestack, looking over the ship graveyard is her sister, Dev. Dev wears a 27. Dev wears a light grey, breezy material cut like a man's suit, but loose. Light hair, grey hair, straight and cut off bluntly at her shoulder. Dev turns, still leaning against the stack.
Can I?
You want?
Dev places her hand on Ang's chest. Ang suddenly relaxes against the stack. The tips of Dev's hair change to a mottled bruise color of black, purple, and blue.
Appreciate it.
Let me see your hand.
Dev takes a vial of blue liquid out of her inside pocket. With Ang's bruised hand in her own, she drips the potion over the swollen, bloody knuckles. Ang's hand heals. Dev pockets the vial.
It wasn't what we were looking for, just someone who wasn't looking for as much trouble as he thought he was.
Ang looks up from her healed hand to see the red light streaming on either side of the smokestack.
Fuck.
They come around, meeting on the side facing the city. The small, low cityscape of San Francisco, illuminated by the blood-red, menacing light of the sun rising behind the hills.
3 days in a row. I'll send the ravens, but everyone we need ready knows to hightail it here. Oh, hi.
To Achilles, the large raven that lands on her shoulder. The bird wears an engraved jeweled harness.
Mom will be watching and on alert. I have to get a few hours sleep.
Ang is already on her way to a hatch, stairs leading down. Dev and Achilles stand in the last of the crimson light as the sun crests the hill and the light turns golden and normal, still beautiful. Interior alley day. The narrow alley in the bricks part of town is deeply shaded. An ancient Chinese man, the sorcerer from the mud, and an elegantly dressed gentleman from marble. The gentleman is reading a beat-up piece of paper.
That's too much.
The gentleman pockets the list.
Of course not. Give it to me.
The sorcerer takes a piece of rolled up paper from his sleeve, unrolls it over a symbol tattooed on his forearm. The symbol transfers to the paper. He shows it to the gentleman. A flourish at the end of a magic trick rolls and presents it. The gentleman hands over a wallet fat with coin and paper.
When the witch is at your disposal, you will make the final payment.
Of course.
The gentleman leaves the alley, his shoes clicking on the cobbled street. The old man stands to his full height, not so ancient. Interior SS Blue Sky Dev's workshop. Early sun streams in portholes close to the ceiling. A pair of human-sized wings made of silky waxed grey material hang from hooks on the wall. Black leather harness loops, one of the wings askew, broken. A laboratory distillery processes a murky brown liquid through a series of tubing and glassware. It becomes greener at each stop until a bright green liquid slowly drips into a small bottle. A small forge is tucked against the opposite bulkhead, cold. Dev looks up from setting a small screw in a wire lattice that holds a knife. Excuse me. She puts her few tools away in a drawer before using a snuffer on the flames in the distillery and capping the bottle of green liquid. Interior SS Blue Sky kitchen day. Sun streams in through 2 lines of portholes as Dev tops the stairway from below. The kitchen is modern 1890s. A large, ornate cast iron stove takes up the right center of the room. A bar height table with bar stools for 12 takes up the left center. Fancy cupboards and counters line the walls, none of it matches. Deb stands at the metal support beam in the exact center of the room with her hand flat against it.
She has to get up. I know you don't like to do it, but...
There is a shriek from somewhere in the ship, a thump. Dev pours 2 cups of coffee. Using an eyedropper from the small bottle, she drops a bright green drop in her eye. 2 hours of sleep is hideous. Ang limps out of the long hallway opposite the stairs, fully dressed in last night's clothes, except for one arm of her jacket is off. Ang eyes Dev and the eyedropper greedily. Ang wants. Dev slides her a coffee while dropping her other eye. She gives Ang a once over, her eyes bright green. They fade, the white still tinged.
If you want me awake, share.
Dev hands Ang the dropper.
1 drop. I don't want a repeat of last time, maniac.
Ang takes a gulp of coffee while splashing an entire dropper of many drops into one eyeball. She hands the dropper back to Dev, ignoring the dirty look.
No sugar?
I put sugar in it.
Dev pulls a much smaller amount of the green fluid out of the bottle into the dropper. Ang splashes the other eye with all of it. She hands the dropper back, takes the spoon out of Dev's cup, stirs her cup and flips the spoon back into Dev's cup, causing a splash as she leaves the room. Dev looks at the mess while pocketing the eye drop bottle. She takes the spoon in hand, calmly takes a sip of her coffee before angrily throwing the spoon into the far sink. Exterior SS Blue Sky day. Dev exits the stairs to the bright sun glare, a croak from the above, and she waves at Achilles sitting on the stack with another raven. Dev stops at the railing. There are 3 people lined up at the docks standing on the side of the ramp.
If you have a new case knowing it's red sky, leave now, and I'll pretend this didn't happen when you come back at a better time.
2 people hurriedly scurry away.
Well...
Person left, Annabelle, 14, is a scrawny teen in clothes that are too big for her.
I heard that sometimes on Red Sky you pay someone to stay here at the ramp and take messages.
We do.
I could do that if you're paying.
Can you read and write?
Yes. I haven't always been. Knife sent me.
Well, come here.
He told me about the ramp.
I'm not hiring you unless you make it up the ramp.
Annabelle lifts a scruffy booted foot, chickens out.
Think good thoughts.
Annabelle scrunches her eyes closed and hops on the ramp, then takes a few more steps.
You hired Achilles. This is... Annabelle. This is Achilles and his friend Nitro. There's another one. We just told her 3 because, well, she won't tell us her name.
Annabelle is a dog.
First thing, bring me those notes under the flower pot.
Interior courthouse day. Ang slips into the pristine white halls of the courthouse. She's wearing men's dress trousers with suspenders, a white button down and felted grey frock coat with a swirl of ravens on the sleeve. At the counter is the court clerk, an attractive dark-haired man, Lucian, 30s, in a proper suit, if not a high-class one. Ang slips up to the counter, leaning both arms like a kid at a candy store.
Red Sky at morning.
Taylor, take a warning. Yeah, I saw. I don't think anything has come through to warrant you. Here are the very slight maybes.
Ang looks through the folders quickly. Lucian has an inner eyelid that closes sideways and then reopens.
Nope. Thanks. If anything comes up, send. Hopefully we'll get it ended today. Oh!
She reaches inside her jacket pocket and pulls out a little green frog. Lucian coos and takes it from her carefully.
He was in the street this morning.
As Ang leaves, a man walks up. Lucian is all business and the frog has disappeared under the counter. Exterior Brixton House day. A burned ruin of a once nice Victorian, only enough remains to have structure. Dev steps up parts of stairs and pieces of porch to where a front door used to be. Interior Brixton House day. A few sunbeams make it to the back room. Dev sits on the floor, in the soot and sets a clear glass marble on the floor in the dark next to a slot of sun.
Charlotte, it's Dev. Catherine heard you cry last night.
The face of a little girl appears in the marble as if she sits opposite and leans in. Dev is still alone.
I had a nightmare, then I woke up.
Charlotte's voice from where the marble shows her to be.
Are you sure you want to stay? I don't want you to be alone.
I'm not alone, except in the nightmare.
Red sky at morning.
Sarah, take warning.
Charlotte looks round, shrugs.
Nothing. It's very quiet.
You know we love you. Fern has a room ready. Let us know when you want to go. Catherine still hears you, and we'll check in.
Not yet, not yet.
A giggle, then the marble is empty. Dev picks it up and holds it in her fist against her chest. Interior butcher shop, back room, day. Ang opens the bottom half of the door. The top half is open. Willie, 40, is a literal beast of a man, looks up from his blade work on half a cow and growls.
Red sky at...
He moves around the butcher table with a cleaver raised.
I told you, I don't want no half and half, bitch, in my...
Ang uses both hands on the half door to launch herself feet first at Willie. Her boots crack him in the face so hard he spins, falls face first over the carcass. Ang holds a large knife point down over his spine.
Now, if you ever want to walk again, keep it up. Then I'll cut off your tail, just to be mean. Red fucking sky at morning.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything. I don't
Poison any
know anything.
Poison any little old ladies with your sausage lately?
I don't mean to. I cleaned it up.
Ang looks round at the not clean room. She backs up to the door while Willie stands and turns, wary. He puts the cleaver down on the table next to the knife Ang left.
I'd like to thank you for your time and cooperation. So next time, cooperate.
I didn't mean to hurt anyone.
That hardly matters when you have. Be more careful.
I am. If I have any ideas on trouble, I'll send a message. Please, don't threaten my tail.
Uncalled for. You got me all riled up.
Exterior SS Blue Sky, day. There is a chain across the ramp with a sign. If it's urgent, give it to the bird. If not, put it under the flower pot. Annabelle sits cross-legged in the shade beside the ramp. At the sight of something coming towards her, she gulps and stands at attention. Ang slows, stops.
Did Dev hire you to run messages?
Yes.
Fantastic. I have to change and I don't want to be late for the steamer.
Ang rifles through her pockets and for a purse.
Can you go to the goat farm at the top of the hill and see if they have any messages
That's
for
it,
me?
darling. That's it.
Oh, sorry.
But it sounded good.
Very
Okay, who wants to start?
I like that. I was really starting to get into it, but it's obvious because you know that that's my kind of thing. I love the whole fantasy and all that shit. The first 2 or 3 pages, it was like a book. Wasn't needed. Absolutely was not needed. You need to get your characters out straight away or as soon as you can, because as we say constantly on this, it's the first 2 or 3 pages that hook. But I thoroughly enjoyed it and I really want to know where it's going.
Cool, thank you. Rachel.
Yeah, really intrigued as well. I love all the sorcerer and all of the bits like that. It's really interesting. The hair color change thing with the blue potion reminds me a lot of a series that's been on Netflix recently called Arcane, which is an anime series. I don't know when you wrote this or when they did that, obviously, but I don't know if you want to change that or if blue is specific to what you're doing. I don't know if it really matters, but it just reminded me of that a lot initially.
It's also got echoes of X-Men as well, hasn't it?
Yes, it has actually. That's a point. Maybe this writer is inspired by these things. Nice. What on earth does this say? this is me just scribbling, and then I have to try and decipher it, which is great. This is why I'm not a writer right now. Yeah, I like the symbols and stuff. I didn't get what you mean by from the mud, but that might become clearer later in the script. There was something or someone that's coming from the mud, which is interesting. There's some gorgeous locations in there. I think they'll look really cool if you can get them. And yeah, I was pretty intrigued as to what the liquid was that they were putting in their eyeballs and what that did to them, because there were some nice hints and clues that left me wanting to know more about that.
If you've watched it, right, something and bone, hawk and bone, I think it's something like that it's called, but they have that. They have from the mud, from the water, from the marble. It just means the area that they're from. It's like, you know, the marble is because they they hack marble out the side of a hill there, and the water is because they live down by the river. So I'm assuming this is a similar sort of thing.
That makes sense, yeah.
I
Interesting.
mean, bearing in mind it's 1890 and they don't have tellies or mobile phones, apparently.
Catherine.
Yeah, I was very intrigued. I love the quirkiness of it. I have an idea that it's probably a series, mainly because of the title was title and subtitle. So I think it's like episode 1 of Red Sky at Morning, perhaps. I don't know. But interesting characters, quite well defined. I got really good visuals as well. I got vibes that were kind of like an American Sherlock type thing, you know, the one with Robert Downey Jr. and that lot. That came across, the visuals came across like that kind of like steampunky type thing, which is cool. I was completely confused by the marble and mud thing. I don't know if there was sort of like magical beings trapped in different mud or marble essences or something that the witch or the sorceress, who wasn't a sorcerer, could talk to. That was really interesting. That would probably be helpful in a script to define that, because the person needs to know who and what they are and where they come from, sort of thing. Other than that, though, intriguing. I like the quirkiness of it, but I completely threw me for a couple of pages with the marble and mud thing. I was busy trying to work it out because it wasn't explained. And I haven't seen that series that you're talking about, John, but it sounds interesting. But yeah, quite liked it.
Cool, thank you. Erin.
Yeah, I was thinking when you're saying Sherlock Holmes, there's a series too called Enola Holmes, and it's got a quirky vibe too. And for some reason, it's not like, it's more fantasy, but it had like a vibe like that. I'm totally intrigued. I love the comedy. I love the banter between the siblings. I can, like Catherine said, visuals. I love when you read a script and it's like you can see it in your brain when you're reading it. It makes it feel like, and then after you read a line and then you're thinking about all the other ways you could probably say that line. Like, I think that's really a good sign too, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, maybe that's what they meant, you know. But I'm completely intrigued, and what everybody else said too. I think it has so much potential. Sounds great. I think it's gonna be great.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really intriguing, and it's beautifully written, actually. But I would say I'm with John in that there is a lot of description on the first page that could probably be cut down a little bit just to quicken the pace. I know that is important. I get what you're trying to do, which is, you know, lead us around this harbour, which is a beautiful harbour anyway, and you know, and set the scene. But I think you have to set that scene faster than, this is a minute, don't forget. This is an entire minute looking around the harbour, and but I like the way, you know, you set it with you see the boots first and then the skirt and then the person, and that, you know, those things are really lovely. I think also as you go on later on, there are moments where you've divided up the paragraph, and there's no need to do that, and that would also speed it on the page. You know, you gain more time. I think you have to kind of remember, it's not a hard and fast, but a paragraph break is actually meant to be another shot. even if it's not indicated as such. It's not just for the sake of let's have a paragraph break here, because I've written rather a lot, you know. But that, again, that's a sort of moot point. But I think you do it quite a lot. I'm just picking out an instance here just so that you can go back through it and look at it. Page 4 is particularly heavy with that. You've got Dev's workshop, you know, early sun streams in through portholes close to the ceiling, a pair of human-sized wings. Well, yeah, I get that that might be another shot, but I would have run a lot of that on and shortened it maybe just to give us the feel of it. But I'm nitpicking because it was a great story and I wanted to know what was happening. And I always nitpick when I'm intrigued. Okay, thank you. I hope that's been helpful.